Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for everyone. Let's start our usual Leads meeting. Today is 8th September, and we are going to talk about post-election scenarios. And in relation to this, I'm most grateful to Brigadier Anjan De Silva, who is the Deputy Leader of the System Change Peramuna, for proposing that we should take this topic. And you will see that we, as citizens, we have only seen this happen. We never really explored as to why it happened, how it happened, and how to prevent it. We usually like expert in the sense somebody who has worked on the subject to take this kind of topics for discussion at Leeds, because we want more facts and evidence and experience from people who are talking about a particular subject. But today, unfortunately, we don't have anybody like that. So we thought we'll take it up anyway, because we have been often neutral partners to this, even when we witnessed this in the past. But there's certain things that we can do, and as ordinary citizens. So this is what we are trying to focus on. And I did a little bit of search on to this subject area. So I got like 3 or 4 slides to present to you just to set the background. But this is in fact is an open forum. So we want you to contribute, and then try to take it forward from there. A message maybe, a direction maybe, so that we will not see major post-election scenarios, and whatever the power transmission will be smooth. So let's start this meeting. And I thank you all for joining. So if we take electoral violence, now when you take electoral violence, it can take place long before, which has been happening already in Sri Lanka. And then we don't really estimate the amount of work today in Sri Lanka the election commission has to do. And we're not focusing on that. They've got a huge amount of work to do to make the election smooth. Now, that, of course, I'm not going to talk today. We are only going to talk a bit about the election, what is happening, and then the violence that might follow, which is what we don't want to see. So the electoral violence at the election or immediately after is our focus today, because it's a very large subject otherwise, and that is what we are trying to talk. So electoral violence is usually levied by political actors to purposefully influence the process and outcome of elections. And it involves coercive acts against humans, property, and infrastructure. We've already seen some of this. We have seen the worst in the past as well. And mainly some people, political actors, are trying to influence the process and outcome of elections. Why do people want to do this? Is because power greediness from the people who are holding the power, as well as are people who want to get into power. So this power greediness is the reason, and this is probably the main reason we should also not vote for it, because these people are just power greedy. They are not wanting to serve the people as such. Is usually the electoral violence is typically selected from among available tools to achieve electoral ends, even if the use of force may simultaneously deliver on other goals, as when the land is forcibly taken from a political opponent to reward a political ally. Now, this is a major complaint that's been there in Sri Lanka, and it's still ongoing, and no resolution. So you can see what's happening. Third one, it also constitutes a distinct form of electoral manipulation. Just like other forms of electoral malpractice, such as tampering with the registration process, vote buying, or electoral fraud, electoral violence aims to manipulate the electoral process. So this is something quite serious. It's actually against the democracy that we all want. And it's the very same people who are going to get elected or wanting to get elected go into this kind of activity. Now, the latest, or what is well publicized, is what happened in the US after the last presidential election in 2021. So I think it's better to focus a little bit about how these things might come through, and then it will tell you some of the things that we talked about in the previous slide. Now, in the US, the presidential election is fixed. It is supposed to be held every 4 years, first Tuesday in November. So this has been happening for about 200 years or so, I think. And it's just happens, whatever the situation, that will happen. So the president or the Congress, or that means the parliament or whatever, cannot stop that. Then it's slightly different to us. Ours is the power gets handed over the same day night. But in the US, it takes another 8 weeks or so before the power is given to the incoming president. So you have a presidential inauguration for that in January. So you got about 8 weeks time to transfer the duties to the incoming people. Now, this is the purpose. Now, in this year, in 2020, 2021, this did not happen, and there were lots of obstacles for the winning president to come into the power. The power transition did not take place. The handing over process did not take place, and there were lots of violence issues. And this is the worst, where on the 6th of January in 2021, the president called for a meeting in front of his office, which is very close to the Congress. That means Congress is the parliament, more or less. So then promoted the crowd who came in there with various arms and etc., etc. That was kind of allowed through relaxed security and also late responding of the security to attack this Congress. Congress means the parliament. So when the Congress was happening, so everyone was in there when this happened, although they escaped without much of trouble, but this happened. So you can see how power greediness maybe, who people in power can create havoc by using his power to have various election manipulations. So this kind of thing can more and easily happen in our countries where we don't have very robust systems to prevent that. So going to that, so the promoting peace is our duty. And then it can happen like pro-violent election. There are a lot of people who are not happy with whatever that is coming to resort to violence. But on the other hand, there are also in other countries where people have got together and rallied for pro-peace, means, protests and marches and everything for peace. So that also shows some power. So showing that there's a large majority of people wanting peace is also helpful to curtail the violence. This is what the message that I want to say. Now, then you come to this area. Now, this is the first time that I heard, or I researched and found out, that there is a war and peace journalism. Now, there's a peace journalism, there's a war journalism, and there are 4 features that I have highlighted in here, which this is not coming from me. It is coming from a researcher called Galtung in 2006. That is kind of an accepted theory, and you can see how valuable it is. So I will slowly go through this just one by one. Now, a peace journalist, a journalist who want to promote peace, and his piece and his talk will be peace and conflict oriented. That means he will define the war as a problem, exploring the conflict's context, and humanizing the actors. So everyone is more explanatory, the peaceful journalist will want to do. But warmongering journalists will be talking more war and violence stories. They will be presenting war as a zero-sum game, using us, them rhetoric and dehumanizing them, omitting the wider context of the conflict. Now, this is, if you had seen the social media that is there in Sri Lanka and even the other kinds of speeches that is taking place by the candidates, you will probably see the distinction. Then the second one. Then the peace journalists will be truth-oriented. So they will expose untruths on all sides. Whereas the war journalists will be exposing their lies and minimizing the guilt of our side. Now, this is also seem to be happening quite prominently in Sri Lanka at the moment. And you will see who is who, which side they are going to. Third one, the peace journalists will be people-oriented. They'll be taking into account opinions of all sides and actors, focusing on suffering all over. Whereas the war journalists presenting elite voices and emphasizing our suffering. Now, this is quite sadly is prominently being seen in our social media platforms. And you will see this is the kind of thing that actually promotes war or violence. Fourth one, the peace journalists will be solution oriented. They will focus on solution rather than on how to win, promoting peace initiatives as a way to resolve the dispute. But the war journalists will be stressing the achievement of victory through violence and perceiving victory over the enemy as the final goal. Now, this is quite an eye-opener, I think, to most of you. I don't think we read this kind of thing that often. And I'm so grateful to Brigadier Ranjan for helping me to bring this topic up. I think he's in the audience. And I'll stop sharing from here and I'll let him take over and explain it a little bit more. Thank you very much.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Chula. Thank you very much. And it was a fine opening, extremely fine opening, with great clarity on the presentation of a war to the people of the country and the world. Unfortunately, Sri Lanka falls far below those standards. We fall more into the category of our journalism falls into the category of war journalism and not peace journalism. And that is the reason mainly for the continuation of the war for 30 years, and still end does not seem to be very much in sight. Thank you thank you all for joining us this evening. I will start with a reminder to you about the recent election in UK. In UK, the Conservatives knew very well that they were going to lose, having been in power for over, I think, about 14 years. They knew very well. In July, nevertheless, in July, the Prime Minister dissolved Parliament and said elections will be held on the 4th of July. On the 4th of July, the elections were held. The Conservatives lost as expected. And what did he do? The Prime Minister, he went to Buckingham Palace, handed in his resignation, went to his party, handed over the leadership of the party, and he went home. Sadly, even after 76 years, we have not reached that standard. Even after 76 years, and the indications are that it's going from bad to worse. Going from bad to worse. See, that is the standard premise, the benchmark that I set for this presentation. I wanted to make a much detailed presentation, but unfortunately I was constrained for time. So I'll do my best under the circumstances. I expect all of you also to put in, to chip in, and add to this pool of knowledge. See, at the moment, even though there are 38 candidates, one died, there are 38 candidates. Actually, there are 4 only in the running. That is Ranil Wickramasinghe, Sajith Premadasa, Anura Kumara, and Nama. What will be the situation if one of them wins? Let's analyze one by one. What is the situation if Ranil Wickramasinghe wins? Well, there will be a certain, there will be a certain amount of instability. People are not going to accept it the way the UK citizens did. I'm measuring by that standard, you see, but it will be crushed. It will be crushed and peace will be restored, but the Cold War will go on. How is he going to, he has made, in his desperation to win, he has given a lot of promises, which actually should have shocked the IMF personnel, because I don't know, the biggest violator, as I can see, is of the agreement is Mr. Wickramasinghe, because if all those promises are fulfilled, well, he is the first person who has broken the IMF agreement, although he keeps on accusing the others, his opponents. See, but I think he will try to fulfill these the promises for his own survival, not for the sake of the country. That means indirectly he will have to send the price increase further the cost of prices of goods, daily essentials, and the cost of living will go up. How is he going to find the money? He will either have to print or borrow more, He has, of course, 4 years, a moratorium of 4 years. But in this, there is no indication in his manifesto how he is going to generate wealth. See, already our GDP is around between 2 and 3%. See, this is hardly enough. This is definitely not enough. See, it has to be over 7% if we are going to create that surplus wealth to pay back the debt. I think there will be a lot of unrest. There will be unrest and there will be instability. In the political instability, that instability will translate into adverse consequences when he thinks of developing the economy. For example, he will have difficulty in attracting direct foreign investments. Foreign investors, incidentally, as you know, we have been trying to attract foreign investors for the last 70 years. 70 years, see? But other countries like Vietnam, Cambodia, you see, they are, as I said this before also, see, they have been able to attract much more. Vietnam came into the scene much later. See? They have been, I give the figures also, they came into the scene much later and investors are going to those countries and bypassing Sri Lanka, notwithstanding the fact that we are geopolitically well placed in the Indian Ocean. Another So the economy is going to suffer in the long run, and the ultimate result will be the gap between the rich and the poor will widen more. Sovereignty of the people will also suffer because he has entered into unhealthy agreements with foreign countries, overlooking the national interest. I am referring to the agreement he has entered into with Russia to set up a nuclear energy plant in Sri Lanka. Okay. The undertaking, Russia has given a promise to take back nuclear waste. What that simply means is that we are completely beholden. Our foreign policy will be completely beholden to Russia's foreign policy. You see, we can't displease Russia. If we'll have to, whether we like it or not, we'll have to listen to the dictates of Russia. This is how slowly, you see, our rulers have compromised our sovereignty for their personal gain, for their personal survival in politics. It's very tragic. And we have not been able to educate our politics, you see, into on the right lines to ensure our political and economic independence. We have still not been able to do that. I think with the start, our books on political science will have to be rewritten to achieve this objective. This is what I have to say about Ranil Wickremesinghe in the event he comes to power. One last comment. You see, the people who robbed the country will keep their loot. They'll never be brought to trial. And their money will never be, they'll keep it for good. This will be an encouragement for further robbing. Robbing will continue. We won't be able to stop it, because that's an encouragement to the politicians, incoming politicians, also knowing they know very well they can get away. They know how to get away with the loot. So this is a very sad situation that I see. If Ranil Wickremesinghe wins, how will he solve the problem of the national debt? He has already set a precedent by giving away Hambantota Harbour. He will do the same with the other national assets of the country to settle the national debt. And he will create, and there will be a new political doctrine created to justify it too. See, in the UK, I don't know whether I really should say this, but in the UK too, after World War II, you see, UK was bankrupt. UK owed money to many countries, and UK had to give away. Those of you who are living in the UK will know this. Most of their assets to foreign countries, and their foreign companies of foreign countries are running most of their services. I wrote an article on this subject a couple of years ago, and it received prominence in the island. I am not going to show that today, but someday, if you are interested, I can do that. It received high prominence in the island. And they will create a new political doctrine to justify it and say that times are very good, and people might even, gullible people might even, they are sure to accept it. Next, what will be the scenario if Sajit Premadasa wins. Now, as you know, in Sri Lanka, the two front runners are Sajit Premadasa and Anurakumara Dissanayake. According to all indications, if you ask 10 people, Anil Wickremesinghe is in third place. That is how it is, but I don't know. But that is what the polls, that is what the people, every time I ask a person in the street, that is what they say. Sajit Premadasa's policies are very much similar to the policies of Ranil Wickremesinghe's. It's very much similar. Market economy, free market economy. Actually, I found personally his economic policies are very attractive. I found it very attractive because it's a free market economy with a human face, he says. So he's a strong contender. There is not much difference. He promises to bring to account all the people accountable for the bankruptcy. He promises, but I don't know how far he can implement it because he is also part of the problem. So this is really the situation with regard to recovering our recovering our stolen assets. So much I will for the so much for the for Sajit Premadasa, because as I said, it's there's very little difference between the two. So Anil and himself. Now we come to Namal Rajapaksa. Namal Rajapaksa is, although he is rated as among the first four, nobody gives him a chance of winning. Actually, the number of votes that he will get would be an indication of the level of our moral degeneracy or otherwise. The moral standards, the country's moral standards. You see, I can't see how anyone who knows anything about right and wrong, honesty and dishonesty, would ever vote for Namal Rajapaksa. For us, it will be an excellent test of the national level of our honesty, integrity, and moral standards. That is with regard to Namal Rajapaksa. Others with regard to the stolen assets and so on. They are the people who stole the assets. You know, the Supreme Court pronounced them accountable. You see, and still they had the gumption to come forward to contest again. In a country like Japan, you see, such people would have committed suicide. They would have been socially stigmatized. Why is it that our society still proceeds to accept these such people who have robbed the country? I remember in Japan there were many instances of public servants committing suicide. You see, in South Korea, 2 presidents were jailed for fraud and dishonesty. You see, we are a Buddhist country. We are talking of our Buddhist values being superior to the values preached by other religions. But this is the action side. This is the reality. Now we come next to Anurakumara Dissanayake. If you asked 10 people in the street, 7 people will say they are voting for him. Okay, 7 people. Some people some pollsters his rating is that he will get 60%. It's very high. Why did they turn towards Andhra Kumara Dissanayake? You know, their comment is very succinct, simple. He said, "Api megulanta dila balamu." You know, that is what the common remark of all educated, uneducated, whatever the social level I observed, the commonest remark is this. Api megulanta dila balamu. What does that show? You see, they had no alternative. They had nowhere to go. They got fed up with these two parties that ruled them for 76 years. They got so fed up and they looked around, but they could only see the JVP and PP and nobody else. This is where the people who were trying to create a third force, you know, we ought to feel sorry that we could not we could not create that force, all of us. So that is why they are there, not because people, it's a default vote, not because people wanted. Now, what will be the consequences? You see, there will be a socialist economy. See? There won't be not a capitalist economy. They will move towards a socialist economy. And there'll be initially all the parties ranged against the AKD will unite to resist the JVP and PP taking over power. So this is a very fearful situation. I think there'll be a lot of, on the 22nd, after the results are announced, it's not going to, country won't be very peaceful. There'll be, if there is an attempt on the part of the losers, Sajid and Ranil and others, to resist handing over, see, then there will be, there will be a lot of unrest in the country. And which can draw foreign powers. They may not directly intervene, but they will exert tremendous pressure, as they normally now do. There is, unlike Russia in the Ukraine or Israel in Gaza, I don't expect any country to send an army in, but they will exert tremendous pressure, and the people will have to bear the brunt. And I also can see that there is a danger of what happened in Egypt might emerge. See? There was a similar situation in Egypt where, well, the ideology was different, but the political mechanics was the same. See, a popular leader won and ended up finally in a politico-military dictatorship of Assisi. That, I think, is a possibility because of certain the NPP is JVP. They are very, they don't easily change with the times. They're very dogmatic and they stick to old doctrines, which are now completely outmoded. And the theories that Karl Marx propounded have been taken out of context. You know, the situation that prevailed the time in the Western world. See, those conditions are not existing today. They are very different. The workers are much better treated than they were treated during Marx's time. But unfortunately, our Marxists, the leftists, still stick to those old theories, and very few have changed. Very few have changed. One of the admirable people who did change was Deng Xiaoping in China in 1978. He said, "A cat, it does not matter even if it is made of clay so long as it catches mice," and turned communism on its head. See the results that he produced for China. See, today's world's economic power, second economic power. See, if the JVP NPP combined adopts the China model, the Chinese model of economic development, I think Sri Lanka's economic problems will be solved, because that Chinese economic model has worked wonders for China. But the difference is they introduce certain elements of capitalism into socialism. The market forces principle, the profit motive and the competitive motive. See, these are the two elements they introduced. If they do that in Sri Lanka, then I think our economy will do very well. But as to whether they will get the freedom, the political stability, and the freedom and liberty that China enjoyed enjoyed to develop the economy, even on that model, whether we will also have that luck, I do not know. There'll be much because our political stability. See, do you know that for all our years, from 1948 up to now, we have been a politically unstable country. If you really analyze the history from 48 to today, you see, our country's stability, political stability has never been good. So this instability might continue. Then what will happen is there will be repression. There will be repression. So all in all, I have a feeling that the future is not going to be very, very bright. With that, I would request kindly from all of you to chip in and contribute your views. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ranjan, for that elaborate point, and also how you summarized what it is happening at the moment. And then I also know that you have previously predicted quite accurately what's going to happen in elections. So we have to take notice of what you're saying, because you do a lot of research before you actually talk about something. So any questions from anybody, or any comments actually, at least how to prevent violence? Yes, Kitsiri, yeah. Kitsiri?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Right. Actually, I don't have to add anything because Ranjan, I think he summarized everything what I have to say. Actually, what I have to mention is, can you hear me?
Yeah, hearing well. No problem.
Actually, repeatedly, Ranil was asking a question from this NPP party, because NPP has promised to provide so a lot of things to the public. For example, the farmers, school teachers, children, they are going to give a lot of facilities and equal facilities to everybody, and they are going to cut that tax and everything. They are going to reduce, cut the tax income and all. And Ranil was continuously asking, I say, if this fellow is going to give so many, how can he earn money? Actually, the wonderful thing is this NPP leader was continuously, he was mentioning how they will earn money because they have mentioned their principle, what they are going to do. They will cut down all the unnecessary expenses in the parliament. They are going to cut down the unnecessary facilities provided to the ministers. And the last 2 days ago, he mentioned about there are the presidential houses in so many districts now. To maintain them, the millions of billions of rupees I spent. That money is our money actually. So he has mentioned there's so many things how they can save money for the sake of the country's development. Actually, after telling, even the Ranil always asking how one can earn money, that question has been answered. Therefore, as Ranjan was telling, the public know the reality. And I am living in a very rural area, Kottaligoda near Kaduanawa. Most of the villagers sometimes people don't know the name of the party, Janata, this NPP, Jatika Janabalaga, but they know the Malimav. When you ask from a village or farmer, they will say, Api Malimav, like that. So people, even though the Ranil was always blaming continuously, the people have understood the situation, and most of the not only the city people, even the rural area people have understood the real situation. They will vote Malimav this time. So that's what I have.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jula.
Yeah, thank you, Gitsari, for that. I think Jivananda is also Jivananda. Yes, Jivananda.
Thanks, Jula. So I agree with what Ranjan said. Most of the things that he said. In fact, I have been writing an article, and I have already included, most of the items that he brought up. I have a couple of questions and comments. The first question I have is, now, Jula, you pointed out to what happened in the US on January 6th, 2022. 21. I see a difference in Sri Lankan political violence and what happened here in the US. Now, in Sri Lanka, usually the pre-election violence is towards grabbing power, whereas post-election violence is on revenge. Am I right? Before going into the other ones, I would like to hear your thoughts. Thank you.
Any comments, Ranjan?
Yes. Jiva, you're right. You see, it's revenge. After the election, it's taking revenge. You're right. And in fact, if you remember, right, this revenge is sponsored even by the winner. You remember what JR said after winning? He said he will give a holiday to the police. I'll give leave to the police. What he was saying, in other words, allowing the gundas to run riot on all those who voted against him. So you see, this violence is state-sponsored now. You see, we have a serious leadership problem, isn't it? You see, what I have seen in the West is totally opposite. You see, I remember there was the last election in which Hillary Clinton and Trump contested. It was a very, very it reached a very acrimonious level. I sometimes I thought. I got the feeling that if Trump wins, he will put Hillary Clinton in jail. But did he? No. After winning, it was very different. He even praised her. You see, commended her for giving such a fight. You see, this kind of ethic, Sri Lanka's political ethic is, I don't know, I feel very sad even to think about it, you see. You remember how when Gotabaya won, when how Sarath Fonseca was treated and his supporters were treated, you see. This, it did not, finally they put him in jail. We are a Buddhist country, it seems. Are we a Buddhist country? I stopped there.
Okay, thank you, Ranjan. Lakshman, you got a comment as well, Lakshman.
Yeah, thank you, Chula.
Yeah,
I
thank
will
you.
take probably 3 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ranjan. Thank you, Ranjan, for a very good presentation with his lot of experience. It's a very balanced opinion, very futuristic. Thank you for drawing our attention to this situation, election. And let me go through it quickly. As Ranjan quite correctly mentioned, the two top running groups will be Sajid and Anura. Okay, 1 and 2. We don't know which one will be 1, which one will be 2. But judging from the villages, and if you speak to taxi drivers, 90% of them say Anura. Okay, and of course they came to our home this evening and distributed their leaflet. Very fancy, very very interesting to read those promises. Okay, let me. So one of those two, either Sajid or Anura, will come number 1 and 2. Let's take the case by case. If Sajid comes, the power transition will not be that violent. I think it will be something like what was happening previously. Plus the expectations of the people who voted for the JVP can run into a kind of uncontrollable situation. That is a possibility, but it can be controlled by the state, I think. So that is one option. Suppose Anura wins. Anura, two possibilities. Either Anura wins by, say, 40% of the votes, but not 50%, 50 plus. In that case, he will become the president. But after a month or so, he has to go for the general elections, where the opposition can be in the majority. In which case, it will be the parliament of the governing party will be the opposition if the numbers are bigger. It will be something like when Chandrika was the president, ran the government, very unstable, right? So that situation is one possibility. If Anura wins with a big majority, 55% or close to 60%, then is the major problem. Initially, there can be violence created by the losing parties. Okay, created by the losing parties is a possibility. And also, as I agree with Ranjan, the losing parties will not keep quiet and hand over the power to NPP smoothly. They will try their best to come out with some kind of disruptions. And also the global scenario, Julie Chang has already ended her term, but got an extension. She's waiting. And Indian Foreign Minister was here a couple of weeks back, had discussions. And there are 3 American ships, 2 Indian ships, 1 Chinese ships in our harbor. So globally, global community is watching. And so the situation is a little bit, can be complicated than we think. And also when it comes to the economy, say suppose Anura wins, NPP is in the power and they get the ruling cabinet, ruling government, then I think they will naturally take the path of China and Vietnam. So it will be a socialist framework, but with the market economy to a great extent. That's the only way to only practical way in the present period. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lakshman, for that comment as well. Yes, any other comments? I think we had a very good discussion. And actually, Dharme, yes, Dharme. Dharme, yes.
Thank you, Chula. Yeah, thank you, Ranjan and Lakshman, all the comments. I follow all the information coming from Sri Lanka every day. I think the situation is between 1 and 2. If Sajid comes, country will not change. We will go with the same old fashion. I think for the country, the only hope is NPP. That is my reading. That is my analysis. I am an independent person. If that comes, like China did, we have two systems in the world, capitalist system and socialist system. There are two extremes. What China did was they collected the good parts from capitalism, good parts from socialism. They went to the middle path. As Buddhism says, middle path is the best one, and they are doing well. I think NPP will do the same thing. What we need to do, if that happens, all educated people should work with them, work with the government to move in the right direction so that we can save our country. No any other hope at the moment. Those are my 2 comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Dharme. Jiva, you are waiting still. Jiva?
Yeah, thanks, Chula. I want to echo what Dharme said. Actually, I too have been following what's going on in the country, and through the little window I have to, I see the events. This is how I feel. Most of the economists I followed think that Ranil's and Namal Rajapaksa's policies are not worth even talking about. They are essentially the same. And then on top of that, they represent the failure of the policies that we have tried to implement over the last 75 years. I don't know whether you saw the little video clip by Rohan Pethiagoda that's going around. You know, he explains clearly how an unreliable person Ranil Wickremesinghe is, looking at what happened during the last 2 years. Essentially, if you listen to The Economist, he didn't do anything to improve the country. It's the rest of the world that came to our help and established some resemblance of stability. Anyway, so both economic policy as well as popularity-wise and the corruption, people should disregard Ranil Wickremesinghe and Namal Rajapaksa. I think that's the way people are feeling right now. So between the NPP and the SJB, the economists think that the SJB economic policies are sound, better than the Anural's policy, the NPP policies, as Ranjan pointed out. However, the weakness they say is that they may not have the political will to implement them, especially the corruption and cost-saving things. So on the other hand, if you look at the NPP, they think that their policies are, as Ranjan pointed out, if they can implement them in the way the China has done, country will do good. But I think that's what the ordinary people are expecting and believing in, trusting them to do. the other sentiment that we are feeling here, I wonder, I just wonder, okay, I don't know. I'm an old guy. I went through the 71 troubles, and then I saw what happened in 89 was part of it. I was visiting the country during that time. So I think we have some of those memories ingrained in our brains, and we cannot bring ourselves to trust the NPP. That's my hunch. So if we leave that aside, I think they have a good chance to do something good for the country. But I don't know what will happen at the political, the presidential election, as the Lakshman and Ranjan and everybody pointed out. There could be a split. But I think what we should look at is what can we do after the presidential election? What can we interfere in some way in the parliamentary election, which is sure to come no matter what, I think. This is how I see. Now, the NPP has the political will and the machinery to implement things. And their ideas may not be, the economic ideas may not be perfect, but there are people who have good ideas in the opposition. Can we get them to work together instead of opposing whatever the government is trying to do? Can we organize some force to unite them and work for the country without sticking to extremes? As Dharma said, Ranjan said, the Buddhist country, stick to the middle path and get everybody to unite and do something good for the country, not for one part or the other part of the population. I will stop there. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Jiva, for that. Basil, you are there. Basil.
Thank you. Sorry, I got a little late to join in, but I was following what you were just saying. I think you are in a very important point that you are discussing is what might the kind of scenario that can develop if, as very much predicted, the NPP may come to power. My own reading is that I see it much more positively for certain reasons. One is, I have followed this whole evolution of the Sri Lanka's leftist movement and its ideological various trends, which are being from the, actually speaking from 1935, from the Bolshevik Leninist Party of India and Sri Lanka, which was the first leftist party, which was, basically a Marxist, and that whole trend that existed a long period, coming also to the Cold War periods, and then the 60s, the time of JVP and the beginnings and things like that. I think what has really we have not grasped is that within the last 24 years or so, on the one hand, the world scene has changed on leftism as a whole. That kind of ideological trends have taken a completely different turn, and there are a number of other countries which have experimented in this direction, and some were in a much worse situation than us. For example, Cambodia. I was, as a senior UN officer, I worked in Cambodia for 3 years, one of the worst times. And during this time, you could see that it was, first of all, Pol Pot was, sort of 100% the old communist style. Then the Vietnamese who came, who were replaced, were halfway somewhere there. But you could see in the country the whole tendency of another group of people who are seeing that this won't work, and they have to turn into some other way, and that experiment is going on. It is surprising that I don't think that we will ever see a place that has gone down to the extent that Cambodia has gone down from 75 to 79, where 1/7 of the population died because of this so-called revolution. But in the subsequent years, to everybody's surprise, so including us who were there, we could never predict, but there were enormous changes turning towards a new direction of trying to develop the economy. Of course, there are lots of problems coming down from the past, but despite, it's a new attempt to work out things. And I think what is positive about the Sri Lankan situation is that there are lots of educated people who are in halfway somewhere there supporting a change. The massive numbers of people who have joined from the retired police, I think is a very, very positive sign, because one of our major problems is how to put back the law and order situation. And this cannot be done without the experience and guidance of those who have seen certain positive things from the past, and at the same time, those who have seen the failure. And I have spoken to many of them in my private capacity, long before any of these things. And there have been very senior people, including those who aspired, who thought could have been the IGP in the past, who were very frustrated for over a number of years over the situation of the policing system in Sri Lanka. So there are people who are looking for opportunities for some very significant changes in that direction. And I think the same kind of frustration exists in the legal area. Almost every lawyer that you talk to privately, although they may say all kinds of things openly, privately, they are very thoroughly frustrated. They know that the system is not working as a legal system. So there are many elements of people who are seeing that there is opportunity. And also there's a younger generation who are particularly taken to, the information sciences, the technological development, who understands them. And I think these people particularly those who are between less than 35, between 20 and 35, this age group may be a significant political factor in the time to come. I think we should, in my case, I expect something completely different to the experiences we have had, not from a positive or negative point of view, but from the point of view of something new. Something new that will be more rational, will be more, maybe difficult, but I think we will be moving towards a more rational direction, because this younger generation is, from their orientation, is very different to the earlier generations. These are just a few thoughts.
Thank you, Basil, for enlightening in relation to the whole situation, comparing it with Cambodia and other countries, because that's very relevant. And I think we should, as leads, I think that is what we should be doing, try to promote truthful and factful information so that the people who are listening will be guided to the right direction. And this way, we are contributing what we can do, bringing in all the expertise and then talking independently as to how things can be done. So it's very good. And we had a very good discussion, and at least getting the journalism right will be a good thing. More peace-oriented, more truthful journalism in Sri Lanka. So that's what I'm thinking about trying to promote. Ranjan has raised his hand. So Ranjan, maybe you can give a statement and then conclude from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Chula. Jiva's idea is worth pursuing as to how we can system change phenomena can be relevant at the general election that will follow. I think we can play a very constructive and fruitful role. So let's have a brainstorming session on that. And that's an idea. That's what I suggest. There is much I think we can do for the country. There is also another point that I wanted to, a brain teaser that I wanted to place before you. The coming out of this campaign, that is the situation of Dilip Jayavira. You know, he is not among the front runners. He's not among the 4 front runners, according to the pollsters and according to what everybody seems to be talking, according to the information that can be gathered from the field. You know, I find this very interesting because, you see, point 1, according to the asset declarations, his income is over 1 million rupees a month. 1 million rupees a month, his income. So much unlike any of the other candidates, according to the going by the declarations made by Ranil, Sajit, Anura, even Namal. You see, they have not declared this kind of monthly income as Dilip Jayavira has done.
Now, Ranjan, excuse me, Ranjan, it is 16 million a month, Dilip's income, not 1 million. 16 million a month.
16 million. Okay, thank you very much. 16 million, thank you, Lakshman, a month, right? With all that money declared, mind. There is always, this is the declared part, I do. That's 1. 2, he has the entire TV channel. He owns it. See? His own TV. And he has a print media, morning newspaper, English and Sinhalese. You see? With all that, he has not come within the first 4. I find this very intriguing. You know, we as thought leaders, we are a think tank, we think about these things. Just give it some thought. How is it that he could not, with all that, he could make the grade? He could get there. Why? You know, the other man, of course, is, you know, you might tell me now, what about Ranil Wickremesinghe? Yes, true. But Ranil Wickremesinghe suffers from incumbent fatigue, and he has a 1, 2, you know, his record, he has burnt his boots, you see. So I don't think no amount of money will compensate to give him a new lease of life. But here is a new man, Dilip Jayavira. See, 16 million income a month. 16 million income a month. A whole channel. And that those of you who follow, watch TV, Tirana, you will see the plug that the channel is giving him. But still, he has not come within the first 4 in the race. You see, I find this very, very intriguing. I like to share that with you and listen to your views. Thank you. Or shall we have a discussion on it? Would be worth it. Thank you.
That reflects, sorry, I'll answer. One is that reflects our population in Sri Lanka. It's diversity and how they think. The second is you have to talk in resonance. That means, I mean, Lakshmana will tell what it means if you make a sound, you have to be in the same wavelength for the other side to vibrate. So you have to resonate what you're saying in the receiver. Isn't it, Lakshman? Is that right?
Quite right. Yes, you have to be in line with the same frequency.
That's what is needed to go through. Yeah. Okay, Dharme. Yes, Dharme.
Thank you, Shula. Very quick comment on that. I think in this presidential elections, there are 38 candidates. I think this is really crazy. Usually in a country like Sri Lanka, there should be only 2 or 3 maximum. All the others, people like Dilip Jayavir and Kirti Wickramasinghe comes to my mind. These are the real entrepreneurs. They can contribute a lot to the country. I think they should come to the parliament in the next stage because everybody can't be the president. There will be only one. And a lot of people in that list can come to the parliament and do the job. That is my comment. Thank you.
You're right, Dharma, because from the amount of discussions we've had, there's quite a lot of constitutional changes that needs to be done to get the country on the right path. And that has to be done through the parliament. It cannot be done by the president. And then you are right. So these people can contribute by coming to the parliamentary election or influence that. And as Ranjan said, we will be able to also do something if we plan well to get into the parliamentary election situation. So yes, we have a raise hand option here. It's Bernard. Yes, Bernard.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yes, I am entering the discussion with a small background which I should reveal. I think recently I sent a Nippes article about how to select the best presidential candidate. I think Professor July will recollect there was a guide in the press regarding the selection of presidential candidate. Then, which you, I think, requested me to make a presentation on the subject. Since it was written by another party, I didn't want to get caught to some kind of plagiarism. And then I asked Professor July about it, whether it could come into that position. Then he said, no, this is a public document. You can go ahead with that. And accordingly, I prepared a small note as to what kind of qualities a presidential candidate should have. So, I have prepared a small PowerPoint presentation.
All good, thank you.
Yes. This deciding on the best candidate.
Yeah.
And the single version also I'm putting
Yeah. It's okay, no problem.
No, this, as I said, I had to give credit to the person who wrote this. And he has given a list of qualities and experience demanded by a politically and economically bankrupt country. Based on a press article by Mr. Lalin De Silva, former Secretary General of Ceylon Planters Society, consultant in agriculture and freelancer. So I give due credit to him. And then I have summarized what he has told. This one thing, single same thing. Lanka වැඩිකරන්ගේ සංගමේ හිටපු මහලේකම් කුෂිම උපදේශක සහ නිදහස් මාධ්‍යක වන ලලින් එල් ඩිසිල්ලා මහතාගේ පුවත්පත් ලිපියක් ඇසුරින්. So number one is experience in, yes, covered by this toolbar. Can you read the first item? This toolbar is blocking my view.
Oh, okay, that's okay. I can read it, all the English versions.
Yes.
You can explain.
Yes.
So
First one,
you got 4 items on this slide. Experience
right.
in managing crisis, especially in law and order, and solving attendant problems on national security. Number 2, leadership skills to unite the country. Number 3, track record and political experience in managing economy and debt portfolio. Number 4, transparency in the conduct of financial affairs.
Yes. Then in that in singular, I have to go to the next. Next one is not coming through. How
Yeah,
do
just
I-
go the page down, it will go.
Yes. Right. Now in Sinhala, you can read no that the toolbar is blocking the number 1. Otherwise,
Yes.
you see.
So you can move the toolbar to a side.
How
Yes.
do I do it?
You can just click it and move it to a side.
Doesn't move.
You can bring it to the bottom if you want.
Toolbar. All right. විශේෂයෙන් නීති හා විනය පිළිබඳ අර්බුද කල්පනාකරණය කිරීම සහ ජාතික ආරක්ෂාව සම්බන්ධ ගැටලු විසඳීම පිළිබඳව පළපුරුද්ද. What I told in English because for the Sinhala reader. රට එක්සත් කළ හැකි නායකත්ව කුසලතා. ආර්ථිකය හා ණයගොන්න කළමනාකරණය පිළිබඳ අත්දැකීම් හා දේශපාලන පළපුරුද්ද. මූල්‍ය කටයුතු පිළිබඳ විනිවිද භාවය. Yes. Again, is getting blocked.
Yeah, just press the page down, it will go.
Something technical, something wrong.
No, you can use the keyboard if you want. Just page down, it will go.
But it's not moving now, right now. Screen sharing.
So there's a comment saying because everybody understands Sinhala in this forum to talk Sinhala.
Right. Let me
Anura, you raised the hand. Do you want to say it quickly? Anura?
Yeah, what I'll let him kind of finish this. I have a few comments.
Okay, fine. Okay.
is thing appears to have blocked. Not coming. The page down also not working.
So why don't you click on the screen?
Yes, that's good. Then clear vision and policy with time-framed action plans. Number 5. And number 6, diplomacy in international relations and foreign policy. Number 7, abiding with global human rights declaration and democracy. සිංහලවන් ස්කාලරම්ගත ක්‍රියාකාරී සැලසුම් සහිත පැහැදිලි ඉදිරි දැක්මක් සහ ප්‍රතිපත්ති සිංහල ජාත්‍යන්තර සම්බන්ධතා සහ විදේශ ප්‍රතිපත්තිය පිළිබඳ රාජ්‍යතාන්ත්‍රික භාවය ගෝලීය මානව හිමිකම් ප්‍රකාශන සහ ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදයට අවනත වීම සමස්ත පුද්ගලික චරිතය සහ සදාචාරාත්මක හැසිරීම. Then number 9 is communication skills. Number 10 is public acceptance. So these are, and Mr. De Silva gives a reference list saying Institute of Policy Studies, those are the reference list office, Institute of Policy Studies for further information and research for presidential election and governance, then Election Commission for official candidate, then Transparency International, Sri Lanka Sambandhana Paripalana Ayatana, and those are his list of things. Now I am not taking the responsibility, but I have listed them in a what you call priority manner, but he has put. Now I just want to brief you with this. This is, of course, I am also in a position to engage in a conversation on this item because the future president candidate, anybody for that matter, let it be X, as proposed by the Leeds Forum, he should prioritize approval of a referendum to the Supreme Court to legalize voters' package of crucial system changes to the existing electoral system before the next general election and PC elections, and those regarding the political system, including the abolition of executive presidency within a period of 2 years of his appointment. So if this is the case, now we had 30 years of executive presidency. Now that are all, not the people, the political parties themselves have promised in all their election manifestos to abolish executive president. I have seen several articles on this also by some professionals, academics also. abolish executive presidency, but they didn't give the answers for that. What is the next step? But here we have given, when I presented my PowerPoint presentation to Leeds, even the solutions were given. So what it is, abolishing executive presidency for a period of 2 years, we don't need 5-year election manifesto. So unless we are committed to this abolition of executive presidency, we need the executive presidency for 2 years in order to effect the system changes only. Beyond that, we don't need, in my view. And because executive presidency is abhorred by not only the political parties, but the people as well. For 30 years, they have been doing that, but that not happened. So this is what the most recent event, Aragale, in 2022, that's what they upstaged, that abolition of presidency, executive presidency, as well as the entire prepare to the parliament law, how the electoral system, through the electoral system. That so those are the something I am sure when I very much liked when the system change Peramona was formed for this purpose, and I think we should press the new press for that matter to effect the system changes and put the house in order. That is what is necessary. So we have to fail now. If this, by any chance, if this referendum, if the new president is unable to do it, we have to effect this system change. This is also a system change that has been given in order to get over this inverted scenario that we have gone through for the last 75 years, when the people are the principals and the politicians are the representative. They have got it inverted, that they are on the top and we are at the bottom. Then it has to be stopped constitutionally. People solved with impunity by politicians becoming demigods and people the helpless devotees. But how do we do it? Which I have explained. Preventing මූලික වශයෙන් මතුවන ලබැදියායන් අතර ගැටුම, that is conflict of interest. සියලුම මහජන නියෝජිතයන් ඔවුන්ගේ තේරුම් ක්‍රියාවල, their selection criteria involving their selection criteria and involving their salaries and privileges, they should not participate in any of those processes. Number one. Number two, all those processes should be handled by independent commissions. That's namely, NEC means National Election Commission and Public Service Commission, all of Salaries and Cadres Commission, those are there. And that they should be able to give the final recommendations to the Parliament, and where the Parliament does places only stamp. They should not be allowed to have a Karaka Sabha, the Parliament committees, to go through these recommendations and ultimately end up with what they want only. This is what has been happening right throughout. So when this constitutional change is made, they will not have a say in regard to how they are being selected, the criteria, as well as their salaries and emoluments and privileges and so on. So this is necessary, and this understanding that in all these commissions, they are membered by only few people. They must have permanent task forces to assist them, and they will be constituted by Vishramika Vinisiruwan, Vidvatun, Kapavu, Civil Sambidana, සහ ජනතා පදනම් වූ පාලනයක් පෝෂණය කරන සමාජ ක්‍රියාකාරයන්ගෙන් සමන්විත ස්ථීර කාර්යමණ්ඩල බලකායක්. So these are the things I think I have for the last 2 years or so, after immediate aftermath of the Aragale, I have proposed all this, but unfortunately they are not felt. They are felt on deaf ears. So this is the only way out. In my view, so let the president be ex, so long as he commits himself to do this, putting the house in order with system changes in regard to electoral as well as political. In regard to electoral reforms, the key areas are, I think, as Professor Deula has always been pressing this, ensure the equality of vote. Equality means proportionality of vote in the allocation of seats. Then we must have 225 vice people in the parliament. And we can't have this kind of mediocre people. That's what the Aragal brought up, upstate the whole thing desperately. And for that purpose, I have given the process, how to do it, methodology, the benefits, everything. I think they have come in the press. So I don't want to repeat all that. And in regard to political structure, there are 4 layers. Number 1, executive president should go, and it should be replaced by a hybrid type, non-executive president. Number 2, a major one is, I think that now again this talk of local government elections have come. I think in my view, before local government election, they must have provincial council election. They have delayed by 5-6 years. Nobody is talking about that. And they are talking about local government because that is a highly politicized layer, because that is the nursery or the breeding ground of corruption. In regard, that is why the corruption starts. So actually, it should be handled by people. We need people governance. So people governance starts with that. So in this regard, I think there was a proposal by NMSJ, which I also picked up. That is the ideal body at Gramanilidari level. People will have Janasabhas, and Janasabhas, those are independent. They are not political. They will look after only the needs of the people in the area, and they'll take it up with the authorities with the view to implementation. So those are 2 key things in the political structure system changes. Actually, these local government elections, for me, it is redundant. It should be handled by people. And because to replace that, earlier we didn't have provincial council, till 1988. When provincial council came, local governments, also state and provincial council. So that is too much to handle. So we must we have to rationalize the local government structure. In regard to election, electoral system, as I said, there must be 225 country first political professionals, because we don't have anybody in the parliament who takes country first. For them, everything is either self first or party first. So they must change that culture, and everybody for that matter, it should be country first. Then only the other things come in. Those are the main areas, but there are several other interrelated system changes I have given, such as the election manifesto being a prosecutable document, so that they can utter this kind of lies into their and placed in their election manifestos, very clear, and they will be prosecuted if they don't implement them. So that kind of confidence we must give to the voters. Otherwise, voters, the booklet or whatever they give, election manifesto, the following day it will end up in the Kadalkarya's mother. So we shouldn't have that, and we shouldn't have even this presidential election is a Hobson's choice, because this is not what the people after 22. We should not have this kind of presidential election. We should have had that hybrid type of elections. Or before that, if at all, we should have had outside political interference. This presidential election is party-based, no? This is party-based. That means parliament also same party, president also same party. So where is the 3-pillar governance? There's no checks and balances mechanism. So we should have had all independent candidates, so that people can mark their preference votes or to whom what they want. Presently, people are party oriented, so they will put an X only to the party they want and keep quiet. So the idea that it's futile to have this kind of ballot paper asking for 3 preferences.
Yeah,
So
Bernard, I think you're saying many things that are relevant, and in fact, most of those we have also captured and discussed in the past. And System Change Peramuna has got it in the 5-pillar governance framework that was written as well. So the question is, talking alone and writing alone is not going to get us anywhere. So we need to get involved, as you say, people first, get them involved. So maybe it's time, as Ranjan said, that we go forward in relation to the general election and see whether we can make an impact. Maybe you should seriously think how we can do it, or maybe get involved as well in that. And I think I'll ask Anura to speak because the time is going around. Time, yes, Anura.
Yeah, thank you. You know, I see three kind of challenges that we are faced here in electing a representative for us. One is, you know, it's a make or break situation for people like Ranil or Anura Kumar, because if they fail here, or if they do not gain more than 20% of the votes, their lives are basically, you know, ruined from, you know, politically. The other side is, the other challenge is, the top four are should literally be in jail. You know, here we are. So our choices are very, very concerning. You know, we're trying to select the best out of the worst that we have here, and we are facing a politically and economically bankrupt country. So amidst these challenges, I don't think we should expect miracles or great expectations, you know, but at least if they can save the country from not becoming the bankrupt for the second time, I would be much more happier than. So therefore, I think when we select our candidates, I hope people will select a candidate who can literally bring FDI. In other words, bring revenue to the country, bring FDIs, and improve the internal productivity, because this is not even discussed. So that with necessary, you know, social political reforms in order to level the playing field to attract FDIs and do the productivity improvements, we can at least hope that the country can return to ground zero. And we can then talk about all these wonderful reforms and changes that we would like to see in the country. So there are many crucial challenges in front of us, and that's why. So people are basically, you know, hanging on to one or two of the favorite things for them and trying to vote on them. I think we should take a bigger picture and look at what is in front of us. Literally, we should prevent becoming bankrupt the second time. And if Ranil continues, obviously, I'm betting that we will bankrupt second time. And even my reading is, with no skill to make reforms and at the same time do or encourage FDI. FDI is a crucial element here. You know, money can't be printed. Only way we can address all our ills is bringing new money into the country, and we don't want dirty money either. So for good money to come, country has to kind of level the playing field so that people will start even considering bringing money, like what happened to even Vietnam. You know, they had to make some changes in order to attract foreign investments, and among them, the best out of the worst that I'm seeing is Sajid. You know, it is Sajid's team. I don't want to bet on Sajid alone. Sajid seems to have a good team who can at least, you know, explain some of the economic transformations that they would like to see, so that we can hit ground zero, because we are in a terrible situation where initial step should be to hit ground zero, and then we should really look at all other changes. And to hit ground zero, I'm also, you know, they will have to make some real social, political, and economic changes. So that's my thoughts.
Thank you, Andrea. I mean, historically, I mean, I happened to be in the US when President Obama was campaigning. That was so many years ago. And I was in a conference, but in the evening, I was listening to an interview with Obama as a candidate. And the interviewer asked 5 questions about various international things. And then the very first answer he gave saying, look, none of that is my priority. The country is bankrupt nearly, and economy is my priority. That's the answer he gave. But before the first time election, and he did a very good job with that. And that is exactly what we need. But we can carry on, as Ranjan said. We are not lost. We have to keep the pressure up, and the general election is more important in making that change. So So let's focus on that. And we had a very good discussion today. And very good journalism is one thing that we need to promote, which I'm trying to do something about that. And then, yes, very good. I think we had a fantastic discussion. Thank you for everybody's contributions in here. Please keep continuing with this, because we will be able to make progress. And maybe at the general election, maybe people like Bernard, who knows so much about the internal mechanisms, should contest and get into the parliament to shout like he did today. All right, great. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Good night,
Good night,
Dr.
all.
Chola.
Good night, everybody. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.